Do you realize what you've done, traveler? Do you know what you've unleashed? Ruin approaches.
Greetings, adventurers at Eterra. Today we're going to talk about the upcoming Last Epoch expansion, or cycle as they would call it, called Harbingers of Ruin. Currently this is set to launch on the 9th of July, pretty close to my birthday in 2024, so like 3 weeks away. This patch promises to bring a wealth of new content and features to all game modes. So let's delve into this and have a bit of chat about player numbers, some other information that we have. There's not a great deal currently. But this video is more so for a little bit of awareness, and I know there's a bit of strain on the player base for Path of Exile and Diablo right now, so this could be something that could fill your time in between. And I'll also add that I'm definitely going to be getting into this one, so I get back on about the 2nd of July, and I actually can't wait for this to come out. I'm super excited. So yeah, it should be a really good expansion, but let's talk about it a little bit. Now, there has been some controversy lately around player numbers on Last Epoch, with, as of today, it being around 3,800 as an all-time high for the month. Is this bad though? Well, for a 1.0 release of a new title with plenty of room to grow, I think this is actually perfectly okay. One of the major drivers behind the initial blow to the game population is just simply due to popular streamers driving their audience to the attention of this game in particular when it first came out. And obviously there was some initial release issues that caused some strife, but that didn't really hinder the player numbers. And I think it hit about 250,000 players, something like that, which is pretty respectable for a new IP just coming out on the market. Now, to compare as well, so we'll talk about PoE player numbers briefly. PoE player numbers are like 6,000 to 7,000, as high as 8,000 daily right now. So, and that's a game that's been established for about 11 years. Last Epoch's a pretty new game, so I don't think it's a bad thing if the player numbers have dropped off a bit. It's perfectly adequate for the game to have a bit of drop off a few months after release. There's nothing wrong with that. Also, being fair to Last Epoch, in the last month, or the last couple of months, we've seen announcements for Path of Exile, which there's a ton of hype around this currently, and that comes out around November, as well as the new Diablo 4 Loot Reborn season, which has dropped, which has pulled players back into Diablo 4, and obviously we've got the new Diablo 4 expansion on its way, so that's just another thing that people are looking forward to, which will drive them towards Diablo 4 or Diablo 2 Resurrected. And in fact, only about a month ago or whatnot, the new Diablo 2 Resurrected season dropped as well. So it's not surprising in a highly competitive market that there will be drop-offs in player bases. So anyway, now similar to games like Path of Exile, which has leagues, and Diablo, which has seasons, the developers of Last Epoch have also shared a roadmap of what is to come during the year. As we can see, we can expect around 3 to 4 cycles a year. This, at least for this year, and maybe this will reduce in forward years, but we're not sure yet. Now, some things that we can look forward to, probably not specifically in this cycle, but definitely in forward cycles, are Primal Hunt endgame events, whatever that takes the form as, a new storyline events, which is pretty cool. Last Epoch doesn't have a bad storyline at all. That's actually quite cool when you get into it. It's a little bit daunting initially, but you sort of wear into it. New uniques to be added to the game. I particularly like this one because this will open up new ways to play the game, and also new build options. With Last Epoch, for anyone who hasn't played it and is looking into it, a lot of the uniques can actually drive very unique play styles, or can vastly modify the way that skills work, i.e. you can have bee summoning in the game, which is pretty cool. Not the best build, but also really cool. Or squirrel builds, which are absolutely bizarre. And so beyond that, we've also got speculation around new unique echoes. So basically, once you've leveled up an area or you've leveled up echoes, you get access to, I guess, echoes. This is basically the endgame system in Last Epoch for anyone who doesn't know. And new unique echoes would be a really interesting sort of play style. Like, how would that work? Would you get particular drops from them? There are very targetable drops in Last Epoch, so it could be something that could be ultra rare that you could get a very specific drop on. Who knows? We don't know yet. The other thing is new side zones to explore and loot. So this is very similar to like Path of Exile or Torchlight. There's, you know, little Easter egg side zones and things like that. Skill system changes they've also alluded to as well. So we don't know much about that, but that's something to look out for later down the track, later in the year according to the roadmap. And new endgame bosses as well. And this is one of the, I guess, criticisms of Last Epoch is there is a very limited endgame to a degree. Like, it's not a bad endgame. Farming up to different corruption levels and whatnot to try and just basically farm the same bosses over and over again is a little bit limiting. But also in this Cycle 1.1 release, this is looking to sort of remedy that as well. So what do we know about patch 1.1 or Cycle 1.1 right now? Well, we've had a 30-second trailer, so not a great deal. And there's not a great deal, I guess, in the forums or anything like that around information that's been put out there. There are some really good creators that have been doing lore breakdowns of what this could be. But simplistically, for now, we're getting new Pinnacle Bosses. What these bosses will be, we're not entirely sure yet, but hopefully the new trailer drops in maybe a couple weeks or so before the release on the 9th of July. Now, in addition to Pinnacle Bosses, players can also look forward to facing off against Nemesis encounters. These are powerful foes, which will offer a fresh and unpredictable challenge for the zones that you go into, or echoes, testing your skills and strategies as you navigate through the world of Eterra. That's a little bit of AI scripting there. We don't currently have any information about these encounters yet, but there are speculations that this could go party and parcel with enemies spawning randomly in the world during echoes from random portal events. I sort of think this could look something similar to like Rift, if anyone's played Rift before. And that was a really cool concept where you're like going around in the middle of nowhere and a random portal just spawns in front and just absolutely blasts you. I think that's pretty cool, but we'll see what happens in the next few weeks when we get a bit more information. In relation to game mechanics changes that we know of so far, now obviously there'll be the spate of patch notes, which will be like changes and balances to skills and whatnot. That's always inevitable to change the meta up a little bit. But there's also the combat role, which appears to be being added to the game. So essentially a long-awaited evade mechanic, which is making its debut in patch 1.1. And this will be very similar to, i.e. the Path of Exile 2 dodge or the Diablo 4 dodge or roll, which will make it a hell of a lot easier to get away from enemies. And this is one of the problems I had when I was playing through Last Epoch a little bit earlier in the year, is that from time to time you would absolutely get bodied by bosses just chasing you down, and there wasn't a lot of mobility to be able to get around them. And the mobility skills sort of seem quite limiting on certain builds as well. So I think this is a really welcome change and sort of fits in line with the way that ARPGs are going into the future. And if this is the case, it's very likely that other improvements, including advanced controller support and things like that, might also be a possibility. Probably not in this patch, but further down the track as well. So anyway, mark up your calendars for 9th of July. I definitely will be, because I hit 33 this year. Close to that date. Pretty excited. Anyway. If you like this type of video, don't forget to like and sub to the channel. Don't forget to follow the Twitch. There's a Twitter there. I'm going to get a Reddit started and a second VODs channel. So yeah, feel free to check those out when they're up. Hopefully by this week sometime. Anyway, I'll see you guys later and have a good one.